Western Mass News is getting answers after two fights leading to arrests at the Big E on Saturday.
Western Mass News reporter Olivia Hickey joins us live in West Springfield with the latest.
Abby and Chris, two brawls ended in 4 arrests and 2 trespass notices. Folks I spoke with say while they're not surprised, they are disappointed that behavior like that can be found at an event like this.
2 fights happening hours apart on Saturday at the Big E are under investigation. The night ended with 4 adults placed under arrest.
People fight once in a while. I mean, it's nothing that you can really stop.
According to West Springfield Police, multiple agencies responded to a large fight with injuries on Industrial Avenue. Officers found multiple people injured, some requiring medical attention and transportation to a local hospital. And a large group of people known to police were fleeing the area onto Memorial Avenue. 48-year-old James Stanley of Haverhill and his 33-year-old son Levi Stanley of Amherst, New Hampshire were arrested and charged with disorderly conduct, malicious destruction of property, and assault and battery. James Stanley faces an additional unarmed robbery charge after police learned he had stolen items in his possession from at least one of the assaulted victims. Both men were issued trespass notices from the fair. Around 11 o'clock that night, when the fair was closing, police patrolling the grounds approached a group of people arguing near the Gate 5 exit. Officers tried to calm the group and escort them from the fairgrounds. Springfield residents 30-year-old Kenneth Malone and 36-year-old Khalif Muhammad ignored police, escalating their argument with profanity and fighting words. When officers tried to get close to separate the men, Malone punched Muhammad in the face in front of the officers. West Springfield police tell us Malone was placed under arrest for assault and battery, and Muhammad did not stand down. He tried to push past police to get to Malone, used fighting words, and yelled obscenities. Muhammad was then placed under arrest for disorderly conduct. Fairgoers tell Western Mass News they're disappointed by Saturday's behavior.
It's a shame that they have to put a black eye on it for everybody else, and make people feel that it's unsafe.
Brian Latham and Sharon Hoskins come to the Big E every year. During their visit Monday, they say they always feel safe during their visits. The pair tells Western Mass News they hope what happened on Saturday doesn't discourage people from visiting the fair.
It's beautiful. I mean, lots to do, plenty of food to eat.
We did reach out to the Eastern States Exhibition for comment. We received a statement reading in part, "We want to reassure the public that the Big E continues to be a safe, family-friendly environment. Our security team is well equipped and adaptable, ensuring that any situation on the grounds is handled efficiently to maintain a positive experience for all attendees." Coming up tonight at 6, we take a closer look at security and safety precautions in place to guarantee a safe environment for everyone that attends the Big E. Reporting live in Springfield, I'm Olivia Hickey. Western Mass News. We'll be right back.